Welcome to LucifroN versus RecoN. Here we are, another set from the EGC TV Elite Classic. We do have a matchup between two players in the top 8, currently in a playoff position. LucifroN kind of trying to make a push to get into the top 2, so he would be placed in the semifinals in the playoff brackets. And on the other side, you do have RecoN. I completely flipped the players. This is RecoN in blue. But here is RecoN. He is kind of at the edge of the playoffs right now. If he has some bad sets in the coming weekend, he's going to miss out on the playoffs. But with a good run, he's going to be there in the top 8. He's going to be playing with the Abbasid Dynasty in blue to the north. And down south, it is LucifroN playing as the Delhi in yellow. This is a best of 3 that they are playing on, and we are kicking it off with EGC Lipany. It's going to be a classic Delhi versus Abbasid matchup, something that you commonly see on this map. Given how many berries you got, this is one of the quote-unquote classic matchups of this map. Now, in this tournament, you cannot play mirror matchups. It's going to be unique civilizations for each player. In fact, we'll take a look at the draft after this game, so you can take a look at what civilizations the players have available. But because of this, if you want to go for civilizations that love to play around the berries, then Abbasid versus Delhi is a matchup that you will commonly see. In fact, one of the things I could do, I actually forgot how to do this. Maybe, yeah, there it is. So, one of the things that people often ask for in EGC broadcasts is us showing the villager distribution in Dark Age, and only later on switching into the resource per minute. So I'll try to do the same thing over here. Nothing out of the ordinary so far, it's just good old-fashioned Dark Age opening from both players. So let's take a look at the maps instead. Looking at RecoN's map, one of the things I'm noticing is that both of the forests that he has are situated on the front. In fact, he's got basically no backups for wood. Now, the reason why this is somewhat scary is because if you want to play into a more eco-heavy approach, let's say 2 TCs, even though your stone is pretty safe, what are you going to do if your opponent plays aggressive and you get denied of wood? Especially because with the Abbasids, when you play into 2 TCs, often you will have to respond to aggression with a lot of feudal age units. Mass archers, horsemen, maybe a couple of camel archers. But the classic way of playing Abbasids, especially against Delhi and especially against a lot of aggression, is that you will play into feudal age units. So you will be in the need of a lot of wood. When you have both of your forests deniable like that, it's kind of scary. In fact, if you're an aggressor, you would love to see a forward position over here, like a tower here. That would be lovely. Not something that you expect from the Delhi, but just a side note worth considering. Now, for LucifroN, he's going to play around the Tower of Victory here. It's just good old-fashioned, efficient production. Wheelbarrow coming in for him, building it up with 4 vills. Other side, it's the economy wing for the time being, and it looks like RecoN is going to play into the 2 TC build. Now, the other thing that concerns me a bit for RecoN is that you see all 3 of the gold mines that he can play around with are kind of chained here on the west. Actually, this is the east side, never mind. But yeah, they're very close to each other. Once again, pretty easy to deny. So if LucifroN plays this angle here, it's going to be very difficult for RecoN to access those critical resources. There is a lot of berries to the south that he could expand towards, plus the hunt as well to the west. But if he gets denied of wood or gold, he's going to be in a very troublesome spot. Feudal Age kicks in here for LucifroN. Let's see what the plan is. Little jump through the TC here. Love to see that little efficiency. Kind of saving a split second with the villagers, not having to walk around the TC. And it looks like it's going to be a blacksmith opening, so he's going to prioritize the blacksmith techs over actual military production. And on the other side, it's just good old-fashioned, as we discussed, 2 TC build for the time being. Now, looking at the sacred sites, those are kind of in the middle of nowhere, pretty much evenly distributed across the map, which is not always a given when you play Lipany. Oftentimes on Lipany, you have 2 sacred sites, just kind of situated closer to each other, and the third one just out there in the middle of nowhere. This time around, they're kind of equidistant, so it's going to take a bit of an effort from LucifroN to maintain control over more than one here. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's definitely going to be more challenging than what you often see on Lipany. Second TC on the way for RecoN. He's going to place it on the hunt. No surprise in that regard. And for LucifroN, it looks like it's going to be Archer range plus stable straight away. He's working towards Sanctity. It's going to take 1.5 more minutes for him to get it. He's going for the range defense upgrade first on the Blacksmith. These are recorded games, by the way. These have been played yesterday, so we'll be taking a look at the Recs rather than live games. In fact, I think this matchup was something that was delayed all the way from week number 1 because of scheduling issues or whatever. So this is a long overdue set, but it's a pretty impactful one, as I said. For LucifroN, the story is about making the top 2 and having a more advantageous position in the playoffs. And for RecoN, it's more about making the playoffs as is. Bit of an expansion coming in here from LucifroN. He's going to secure these berries. If he places a tower somewhere in this area, just to secure the sacred site, it's also going to provide vision on this region. And that would be lovely, because that kind of gives you a warning if there is any aggression coming towards these berryvilles. Scout is taking a look at these berries for the time being. And yep, looks like we're going to have some walls coming up here for LucifroN. Other side, range up already for our blue player, RecoN. He's also going to drop a bunch of houses here. This should pop him beyond the Golden Age. There's no way this is a 0, yeah. It's probably because we were on the wrong POV, but you see he dropped additional houses. He's up to 70 population, despite kind of just needing 30 or 40. That's because he wanted to pop this Golden Age tier 1, so he's going to get that plus 15% getter rate buff. This is a critical thing with the Abbasids, and this is why you often see the Abbasid player just prioritizing dropping these houses. Horsemen swoop in. It's just one enemy unit, so villagers can actually fight back here. No textiles on the side of RecoN. Love these little ramparts over here. Makes it much more difficult for LucifroN to do tremendous damage, but here comes the Horseman again. And once again, he's gonna get pushed back. A lot of villagers on the gold over here for RecoN. This is something that LucifroN sees, and he knows fully well that this could end up being a semi-fast castle. Archers arriving, they will push away the villagers. Don't forget, these bad boys do have the Tower of Victory buff, so this is something that RecoN needs to be careful about. Horsemen now swooping as well, no spearmen for RecoN. Archers getting pushed back as well. Numbers looking a lot better, actually, for LucifroN. It's 14-4 emergency towers coming in here for RecoN. Villager gets pushed away. Not a single villager has been killed so far. As I say that, the first one falls. The tower will complete. Critical detail here, especially because RecoN is very much outnumbered on the army department. New horsemen are coming in as well. Not only is he outnumbered, by the way, he's also lacking dex. There is already a ranged, the ranged defense upgrade is already in for LucifroN. He does have the Tower of Victory buff as well. So when you have twice the archers as your opponent, plus they are also a lot better, that's a bad sign for RecoN. And remember what we talked about. It's the access to gold. You see the tower is up, but even with the villagers garrisoned, I think the archers can deny it. Lovely detail here from LucifroN to move out to the horsemen. Will spot these villagers heading to the south. So now LucifroN knows fully well that RecoN is desperate for gold. This is a very harsh map, by the way, for RecoN. Having all 3 of your golds chained together like that is a very bad sign. And now these gold miners have been found. You see LucifroN is shifting to the south. Meanwhile, he also has all 3 sacred sites already. 27-7 is the army ratio. RecoN is close to Castle Age, or at least that's what you would think, until you realize that he's going to struggle for gold. He's actually shifting back to the north. But this fast castle is going to be closer to a slow castle at this point. LucifroN knows fully well what's going on. And with 3 sacred sites, he can catch up on the Castle Age timing. These horsemen are just causing so much havoc. Battering ram on the way now for LucifroN. He prioritized the siege engineering upgrade so he can start ramming down these walls, opening up a possible opportunity to jump on the lumberjacks, or maybe just push the TC straight away. Castle Age on the way for RecoN. He's coming in with the military wing. On the other side, you see resources are also being banked up by LucifroN, and he's sitting on 3 sacred sites, so he can get the gold he needs for Castle Age in a matter of moments. Still a minute away from Castle Age is RecoN. On the other side, efficient production now bumping up the production levels of this range and the stable. LucifroN is still committing to these forces. Looks like he has no desire to kind of race towards Castle Age. He just wants to push an exposed opponent over here. A lot of villagers exposed here from RecoN. Rams now coming in. Horsemen catching those fleeing villagers, a lot of them actually. Could be a beautiful surround. Quite a few are getting caught off guard. No textiles on the side of RecoN. Archers focusing them down. Nowhere to go. RecoN is losing a ton of villagers here, trying to flee back to the TC, but there is just not enough space for all those villagers. Some of them will make it there alive, but not a lot. 13 villager kills in a blink of an eye for LucifroN. Now these villagers are fleeing out there. Archers will be cleaned up as well. Still 20 seconds to go for that Castle Age for RecoN. And LucifroN, he's just pedal to the metal at this point. He's going to clean up the archers once again. A couple of villagers will flee to the north, and RecoN just steps out of this one. LucifroN, all-out aggression. RecoN tried to play a defensive game here, but just didn't work out with the map layout that he has had. Quick, very quick strike over here from LucifroN, who, based on the standings in this league, is probably the favorite to win this set. But also, very clear execution, kind of what you would expect from him. For RecoN, there are some question marks over here. I think what he did probably could have worked with a slightly more advantageous map, but with the gold layout that he had, with the wood layout he had, that was just impossible to pull off. You see, with the drafts, now we will have Delhi and Abbasids crossed out as we'll go into game number 2. Welcome to game number 2. We have LucifroN with a 1-0 lead over RecoN as we head to Wetlands. We will have LucifroN playing as the English in yellow to the north, and to the south it is RecoN with the French in blue. LucifroN opening with a barrack straight away for a lot of aggression. Could find quite a few villagers over here for RecoN. RecoN is playing into the shorefish straight away, which I actually love quite a bit. You see he's also using his scout in a kind of unique way. Where is the scout actually? He didn't even collect the sheep under the town center, so I presume he wants to go out aggressive and just find the extra sheep on the middle, or like the middle of the map, kind of. And that's actually a cool idea, because you do have the shorefish working for you. The mill with the French is cheaper, so you can justify getting this mill up, getting the extra food income from the shorefish, and also just kind of collecting the neutral sheep. Now, the place where this plan fell apart rather, is that he wasn't able to find a lot of sheep, actually. I'm not sure how much sheep you're supposed to have on this map. I think you don't have a ton. But still, he just got away with like 1 sheep. Men-at-Arms now coming in. The other drawback that you have over here for RecoN is that when you look at RecoN, he is yet to scout the enemy base. He probably doesn't even know about the Men-at-Arms coming in, and this could be a nasty surprise. The gold mine is exposed. The fish is exposed, and that's a bad sign for a French player. Manages to get a couple of sheep back at home, but you see first Man-at-Arms arrives. When you fight with these Men-at-Arms, you gotta be cautious, because a single volley from the TC will wipe out your Men-at-Arms. But this is good use of it. You won't go overly greedy. You know you cannot kill a villager against a pro player with a Man-at-Arms like that. It's all about just damaging them, pushing them away from the gold. And you see, RecoN is going to have what he needs for Feudal Age, I assume, indeed, just by one gold. But the real value that you're getting here for LucifroN is that when he gets to Feudal Age, he won't have the gold to pop out that knight immediately. On the other side, you see, LucifroN isn't going to go overly greedy here. He went into 2 Men-at-Arms, just what he needs to push away his opponent from the fish and from the gold. In fact, it would be lovely to see him go on the fish, although that's a little trickier, because obviously he's out of wood, him having gone for the barracks. So, for the time being, it's just going to be on the sheep. But you see, he's also going to work his way towards Feudal Age. Now, looking at RecoN's map once again, gold situation isn't really great. He's got 2 gold mines close to each other. There's a backup here in this very nice little... What is this even? This little nook. The gold mine. This is sheltered by the forest. Plus, with a bit of a walling on the front, he could secure this base very well. So this is a well-defendable base for RecoN, and that's a gold mine that he could secure. You see, LucifroN is looking out for that. He knows that if RecoN wants to go for a knight immediately upon hitting feudal, he needs to get golds from somewhere. Council Hall on the way for LucifroN. He's building it with 4 vills, so he's trying to get up at a pretty expedited speed, I would say. Wouldn't be surprised to see him transitioning into some spears and longbows, because right now, what you see if you're LucifroN is that your opponent isn't on gold. So you take out one of the strongest elements of the French gameplay in Feudal Age. You could play into your own strength with the longbows, with the spearmen, and just try to exploit the fact that your opponent currently has no access to knights. This will change. You will see some horsemen pop out here for RecoN, and he's going to try to fight off these men-at-arms, then get back to the gold mine, get some knight production going. But initially, you will have a window here for LucifroN to exploit the fact that the French player does not have knights. Indeed, it's going to be horsemen being produced. Now, notably, horsemen produce a lot faster than knights, so it's not like it's going to be easy for LucifroN to keep denying these gold mines. By the time he arrives at the first couple of spears, don't forget, English only get their spears in Feudal Age, so he cannot start making them just yet. But by the time he arrives, you will be talking about 4, 5 horsemen possibly, and that should be enough to clean up the men-at-arms. You see, horseman is trying to prioritize pushing away the scout, just deprive LucifroN from vision. But for now, focus is going to be protecting these villagers on the shorefish, especially because RecoN doesn't have a lot of sheep to work with. Quick range coming in as well. Preemptive counter to the spears, and it looks like we will have the men-at-arms upgraded first here by LucifroN. Interesting choice. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of that. We'll see how impactful that is. It's a cheap upgrade, so you can definitely justify it. I guess the idea here is that he wants to extend the lifespan of these men-at-arms and just make sure that it takes a little bit more effort from RecoN to clean this up, and that could buy time for the spearmen to arrive and once again deny the gold. Looks like RecoN is just giving up on the gold altogether, though. He's kind of going back, all the way back here, actually. He's probably looking for those men-at-arms. He kind of lost track of them. But he isn't really finding them. At least finds a wolf, but that's pretty much all. Now he's got archers, he's got some horsemen coming out. His number is looking pretty healthy. On the other side, spearmen longbows just now coming out for LucifroN. He's yet to move towards this patch of shorefish. He's actually prioritizing the one at the back, but this is a tiny pond with only little shorefish in it, so he's going to have to move towards a larger pond here. Nice little move from LucifroN. You see, he's aggroing the boar as well, just trying to push away these horses. He realized that he only has one spearman over here, spotted this group with the scout rather, and he's going to regroup here. Now, he's keeping track of these guys, and he wants to make sure that he can take this fight, not to get surprised back at home. He's actually pursuing all of these guys back to home. You see, he could have marched forward towards the enemy base here, continue harassment, but instead he's pursuing these horsemen. Interesting choice, because he probably could have just left a couple of spears here, and that should be enough to deal with the 5 horsemen. Could have continued on with like 2 spears, 2 men-at-arms, and the longbows. But it looks like LucifroN is playing this one safe. He doesn't want to get surprised by these horsemen inside his base. It's a huge force from RecoN, though. I'm starting to like his army more and more. He's got a lot of horsemen. Those will be tough to kill. Quite a few archers as well. Now it looks like LucifroN is moving out. RecoN does have the scout as well. So one of the things that RecoN knows is when his opponent is moving out. So he's actually going to catch one of these longbows, and I think he's going to swing in from the south as well. This is going to be a beautiful pincer move if he manages to pull that off. He's trying to intercept reinforcements, just buy time for himself. In the meantime, he's not on stone, so this is a 1 TC build from both players, as we do have LucifroN adding farms already. Now, even with the cheaper farms for the English, this is going to put a bit of a strain on your eco. It's going to slow down your production of longbows. You see, he cannot consistently produce longbows, spears, and also make farms. So that's going to buy some time. Looks like a couple of delayed palings over here. Very delayed palings by these longbows. As this is a retreat from LucifroN. It's a lot of horsemen that he's facing up against. And don't forget, longbows are slower than usual archers. So RecoN can catch up with this force, and you see he's trying to swing to the north, get a surround on this army, exactly what he's looking for. He's going to fight off the spears as well. He's got overwhelming numbers. He can take this engagement without having to worry about those spearmen that much, and he's going to clean all of these guys up here. Men-at-Arms will take a long time to kill, but the rest of them is just gonna get butchered here. Even the scout could get intercepted, but this army is just a goner. LucifroN has his entire army cleaned up, and now his gold mine is exposed. Lumberjacks, they're close to the TC, so they're probably safe. Not so much are these villagers on the shorefish, and this is a great position for RecoN to be in. He's actually doubling down on this feudal age aggression. He's already gotten the first melee attack upgrade, but there's also range defense coming in, and he's got a lot of horsemen now. He's got that mobility advantage that he can use to every once in a while swing in and catch a couple of villagers off guard. He might be looking for this gold mine. He saw this gold mine being denied, so he's probably swinging north, checking if there is anyone on this gold. Through the fog of war, you can see if deer has been killed, so he knows that there are no villagers on this deer patch. But he's checking out this gold mine. He's probably looking for villagers on these ponds as well. But it looks like he's going to find no one. He's going to double down now on the eco department, sends a couple of villagers to stone. He's also going to check the stone of the opponent, knows that LucifroN is now playing 1 TC, and he's actually going to get the kill on the scout. It's a big pick. Makes sure that LucifroN has limited vision that he can work with. Army numbers slowly building up for LucifroN again. He's got a healthy mix of longbows and spears, but he's kind of confined into his base. And more importantly, he has no idea what's going on inside RecoN's base. RecoN is heavy on the stone. He's going to have the second TC up. Probably over here is my guess. He wants to expand towards food, or he can go for a safer spot on the hunt. Actually, this is a better spot. On the hunt, on the wood, and on the shorefish. That's probably going to be his #1 place. If he wants to go risky, he could also take this hunt, but I feel like that's just unnecessary risk right now for him. It helps a lot, of course, for the English that the bells are always ringing when you see enemy units. So every time RecoN shows up, LucifroN gets a notification about that, as we just now have the blacksmith coming in for LucifroN. He's quite a bit behind on the blacksmith upgrades. Eco upgrades looking pretty even, just double broad axe for both players. And there's the second TC on the hunt, indeed, for RecoN. He has a 7 villagers lead already, by the way, courtesy of the French villager production bonus. So he's more than happy confining LucifroN inside his base, especially as long as he can deny the gold. You can't really play around denying food here because the English will have the farming. But you can try to deny the gold as much as possible and make sure that LucifroN cannot beat you to Castle Age. Keep in mind that for LucifroN, part of the ways that he could kind of catch up on the eco department is squeeze out a King's Palace Castle Age and get that second TC up that way. Obviously, there would still be the French bonus to account for, but at least he would pretty much keep pace with the opponent on the villager count. With 1 TC versus 2 French TCs, he will be outnumbered on the eco department quite fast. Horsemen swing in. Villagers will be pulled back. A lot of longbows now back at home, up to 21. So you really don't want to commit here if you're RecoN, but frankly, you don't even have to. You just circle around and make sure that LucifroN never leaves his base. Now RecoN is also starting to mix in some knights, so he can use smaller groups of them, and this could be a lovely swing in. There's also Stealth Forest over here, and you see he's accompanying these knights with a scout. He's got a scout in this formation, and he's got a scout in this formation, so he knows exactly where he can strike. Knights are diving in. Beautiful picks over here. Longbow is a little slow to catch up, and that's going to be 2 villagers picked. RecoN actually going a little bloodthirsty here, tries to get a 3rd one. Will get a lot of damage done. Swing in now from the south as well with the horsemen, and you see the lack of mobility is haunting LucifroN here quite a bit. He cannot really catch up with both formations of the knights and the horsemen. It also makes it much more difficult for him that there are Stealth Forest here in front of the gold and here close to the shorefish as well. So RecoN can kind of hide his forces, make it even more difficult for LucifroN. LucifroN actually made a new scout so he can keep track of these forces, but now RecoN is just falling back. He's more than happy having a 15 villagers lead. He's on 2 TCs, he's walling this up, He's also securing a lot of map control, which gives him access to the shorefish. So he can turn that map control into an even more significant eco advantage. And it shows. You see, it's 900 food per minute against 500. 700 wood against about 400. Gold is also better for RecoN. He's even going to get survival techniques. So he's going to take the hunt over here, possibly. He kind of half depleted this hunt, so I don't think survival techniques is worth it if you just take this. But if he wants to go here as well, it's definitely a good pickup. LucifroN is now thinking about breaking out of his base. He's got a huge force, 27 longbows, 14 spearmen. But one of the concerns that LucifroN has at this point is that he's got no clear idea on what RecoN has. He saw the group of horsemen, he saw the handful of knights that came in from the right side, but he doesn't know how many archers he's facing. He has very limited information. You see, now the scout is going to find out what's going on, but prior to this moment, he had no insight into the enemy base, so it would have been very risky for him to move out of his base, because, don't forget, English army is slow, especially the longbows are, so if you get caught off guard, you will have your army wiped. So part of the reason why LucifroN is playing this very defensive is because he doesn't really have a good idea, or, well, didn't really have a good idea of the extent or the size of RecoN's army. It's also going to be a slightly faster castle age for LucifroN. He probably wants to go King's Palace, maybe right over here. That would be a lovely spot on the gold, the hunt, and the forests. Ooh, you gotta be cautious. You don't want to lose that scout over here if you're LucifroN. Archers actually diving in here. Villagers will be pulled back in time. Longbows using their extra range will pull back the archers. Castle Age is very far from RecoN. Now, this is where it gets tricky. First of all, knights are swinging in. You see longbows have been pulled to the south. Knights will try to exploit this opportunity on the north, but no villagers are to be found. King's Palace now coming in on the left side. If RecoN sees this, that could be his go sign. He could punish an early Castle Age here very quickly. You see spearmen have been sent to the north, only longbows down south. There is the network of castles bonus, of course, for LucifroN. Blacksmith upgrades slightly better for RecoN. It looks like he's going to commit. Horsemen yet to dive in, but the archers come in. Knights coming in from the northern side as well. It's going to hit the lumberjacks. A couple of villagers getting caught off guard. Nice traffic jam over here. Palings coming in. Spearmen as well, bracing for impact. Decent fight here for LucifroN, as good as it gets, but the knights are coming in from behind. Palings still working wonders. Archers getting picked apart. The scout will be taken down, so no more vision for LucifroN. And it looks like RecoN is going to pull back. Indeed, the Palings, the Spearmen, network of castles bonus combined, just way too strong for him to beat. And now, he's facing a situation where his opponent is also in Castle Age. There is a substantial army that will be upgraded to Castle Age units soon. So RecoN, he either needs to double down and just play into the numbers game in army, or he needs to make his way towards Castle Age. Looks like he's going to do the latter. He's going up to Castle himself. Will maintain presence around the enemy base with knights, just to make sure that LucifroN cannot really afford to move out. LucifroN will try to counterplay with this with a couple of walls, just make sure that the knights cannot surprise him. I think there might be a tiny opening here. It's hard to tell, but LucifroN is going to wall this anyways. Royal Institute is the landmark of choice here for RecoN. It's going to buff quite a few of his knights. He already has 9 knights out there, and once he starts going up, he's going to get a couple more. I think he's missing Cantled Settles. Of course he does, because that's a Castle Age deck. He's actually missing Chivalry as well. So not a lot of upgrades for those knights just yet, but as the Royal Institute kicks in, he's probably going to get both Royal Bloodlines and Cantled Settles. And it looks like, because LucifroN is still inside his base, he's not going to punish this Castle Age from RecoN. Double barracks coming in, could see an increased amount of men-at-arms. Knights trying to dive in, but looks like walls will be in time. Archers have been pulled all the way back here. You see, RecoN doesn't want to fight this. In fact, he's getting some walls up. He wants to make sure that the only time he fights is when he gets his own Castle Age. Mind you, he doesn't have Wheelbarrow, by the way. It's actually a problem, especially once you have your villagers walk towards the shorefish, because they walk a lot as they shorefish. Monastery on the front line for LucifroN, alright. He's going to have the flanks protected, so now he can focus all his attention towards this area. RecoN is also kind of digging trenches here. There is the Veteran Knights upgrade. Obviously, Royal Bloodlines is a very pricey tech, so that's something that you have to consider. That's part of the reason why oftentimes you see French players going up to Castle Age and just popping Cantled Settles on the Royal Institute, because it's very cheap when you research it here. Takes only 45 seconds. And if you cannot afford Royal Bloodlines, it's probably the second best thing that you can do with your Royal Institute. Lovely use of map control, by the way, from RecoN. He knows fully well that he is facing a very slow-moving army. And in fact, a LucifroN is deprived of vision as well. He's just got one scout back at home. So he can get away with all these little pocket ecos. In fact, he's actually starting up trade as well, I'm just now noticing. But you see, he's also shore fishing all across the map. So part of the reason why his food eco is essentially double of what LucifroN has is because he's got all this shore fish to work with. Plus, of course, he is going to have trade. Love that he's getting this sacred site as well. I don't think he's got any trader out there yet, but it will soon become a thing. And you see Royal Bloodlines are now coming in, 50 seconds left to go. And the concern for LucifroN is that he's now down by 30 eco. His army is going to be comparable, at least when it comes to the quantity. But when you look at the value at the bottom left, it's a different story. It's essentially 50% higher value for RecoN than what LucifroN has. Most of this is because of these knights. And when Royal Bloodlines finishes, this is going to be an even more skewed number. You won't see that upgrade appear in the army value column, but there's going to be a significant jump in the actual effective value of RecoN's army once this deck finishes. Blacksmith upgrades will also look a lot better. You see, essentially, Castle Age upgrades are in for almost all blacksmith decks. On the other side, you will only have that for the ranged defense and ranged attack upgrades. No melee defense, no melee attack, by the way. Sacred Site being capped on the north by LucifroN. That will equal things out with RecoN. And it looks like RecoN now has the go sign. He's going to dive in. He's got Royal Bloodlines. Cantled Settles just now coming in. Network of castles will be expanded over here, but you see, LucifroN is realizing that he's facing overwhelming numbers over here. He's got a Mangonel out, beautifully shielded by the Spearman. First volley hits all the archers. Mangonel still alive here. You gotta dodge some bullets over here. If you are RecoN, second volley will get dodged. Knights will find an angle on the Mangonel, has to back up. Opens up once again. Beautiful shot with the Mangonel. Mangonel still alive here. Knights are fighting most of the Spearmen. This Mangonel is coming in clutch over here for LucifroN, but it finally gets taken down. Knights are gone. They just evaporated thanks to the spears. Only a handful of them remain. And there are quite a lot of men-at-arms over here as well that will repel these archers. Beautiful fight for LucifroN. That Mangonel came in clutch, and the way he defended it was just crucial for this success. Chivalry just now coming in for the Knights, but out of nowhere, army value has equalized. You feel like this was just a culmination of a lot of things here for RecoN. He needed to get rid of the Mangonel, but that meant that the Knights kind of suicided into the spears, and because he had to constantly dodge these volleys from the Mangonels with the archers, he just didn't have the kind of time, effort, whatever, to focus down the spears. If there wasn't a Mangonel there, he focuses down the spears with the archers and he wins that battle. But because of that Mangonel, he wasn't really able to keep focusing the spears because, you know, he was busy making sure he doesn't get massacred by the Mangonel. Eco is still looking a lot better for him, and I think he is setting up traders. Indeed, he does. It's actually a pretty good route as well. Wait a second. Is he trading with this? Something is odd here. Oh no, it's just the pathfinding because of this forest. Never mind, I'm dumb. I thought there was an opening here. For a moment, I thought he was going to trade through this, which would have been very awkward. But technically, he has map control, so it's not the craziest idea I've ever seen. But no, it's just this forest. At any rate, one of the things that we need to keep monitoring is that RecoN is yet to transition to farms. So when the shorefish runs out, this food eco is going to plummet. That's something that he needs to consider. He's got a castle back at home. He's going to have the cheap knights now, only 112.80 is the cost. Enlistment incentives is a thing to consider if you want to play into a lot of knights, but it's a pricey tech for the discount it gives. So this is only a thing for RecoN to consider if he wants to go very heavy on the Knight department. And of course Arbaletry as well. Trenches have been dug. Both players now kind of fortifying the map, which naturally favors RecoN, who is sitting at 132 eco over 82 from his opponent. There is a Springald now coming out, so there will be a response to the Mangonels. No castle for LucifroN just yet, so it doesn't have the network of Citadel's aura, it's just the network of castles just yet. If he made a keep in the middle, he would probably be able to get network of Citadels quickly, and that could be a big equalizer. His army isn't that much behind compared to what you have for RecoN. And there's a Red Palace for RecoN, he isn't messing around. He's turning that food and the gold he's getting from the trade, and of course the shorefish, into the Red Palace. Will fortify this area, will make it very difficult for LucifroN to push. Now, Lucy doesn't see this, but RecoN might want to pull a couple more villagers to this. This could get dicey. If these guys broke through, and this landmark isn't finished, that could be a disaster for RecoN. See Mangonels now coming in, Springolds rallying back as well. A couple of Arbaletri also made it to the field, so Man-at-Arms are no longer safe. And I think Red Palace has been spotted. These villagers aren't really making their way towards the landmark, and it looks like LucifroN will push this before the landmark finishes. Springolds setting up first volley, actually targeting the longbows, not the Mangonels. Mangonels getting caught off guard, though, by the Knights. One of the Mangonels goes down, second one is also going to get taken down. Arbaletri and the Archers firing from the backline now. Most of the Man-at-Arms, the Spearmen, are disappearing, and the tanky Knights, they still live. Looks like this fight is going to be a lot better for RecoN than what he had previously. He's going to repel this attack. He's going to have Military Academy coming in. The Red Palace will finish eventually, despite all villagers getting massacred around it. But even if that Imperial Age doesn't kick in, now he's got momentum, now he's got the army value advantage. He's going to push this all the way back. Longbows will be slow to retreat, and they are just going to get torn apart by all these Knights. Arbaletri also catching up with this. Now momentum is heavily in the favor of RecoN, and I would not be shocked about the GG here from LucifroN soon. His opponent is going to be an Imperial. He's got momentum. He's actually taking this fight before Imperial. Palings will be deployed by the Longbows, but it doesn't change much now with all these Archers coming in. Arbaletri also firing from the back line. Imperial Age in for RecoN. He can start working his way towards the Elite upgrade for the Knights, but probably more importantly, Elite Archers or Arbaletri, especially given that his opponent is playing into Man-at-Arms. LucifroN is down to just 100 population against 200 pop. Momentum is there, and I think RecoN doesn't have the stone for a castle drop. If he had, he could just finish this game right here. But even without that, he's got momentum. He's breaking into the base of the opponent. Last Mangonel will be taken down by the Knights, likely. Yeah, Knights will dive in. Last Knight will get it. And it is just 42 army against 10. RecoN pulled away with the eco pretty early on in this game. He had all the map control with the Shorefish. He was playing into 2 DCs with the French. And LucifroN could never really break out of his base. He was kind of confined in there until like 5 minutes ago. And because of that, he could never really punish what was a pretty greedy build from RecoN, spreading across the map for the Shorefish, playing into 2 TCs. Obviously, a lot of this came down to LucifroN's initial army getting cleaned up and then just losing that momentum. But RecoN played off very well from that and equals this series out. We're going to a decider game here. Obviously, critical set, especially for RecoN, but also an important set for LucifroN to win, just to make sure his standings are as good as it gets to make it into the top 2 or top 4, because obviously, as I mentioned before, that's going to give you advantages when you go into the playoffs. Welcome to game number 3. Score is 1 apiece as we head to the decider between LucifroN and RecoN. On the left side, we have LucifroN playing as the Rus in yellow, and to the south, it is RecoN playing as the Chinese in blue. The map is high view, so seeing a civilization like Rus is not something that's unprecedented. Chinese is a bit more of an interesting choice. Again, not unprecedented, but this is not a civilization that you commonly associate with a map like high view. I'm actually going to be curious how RecoN is going to play this. He is on 2 scouts right now. He will take this patch of deer. The other patch of deer is actually pretty close for him, plus it's in the corner. Now, one of the things to consider is that usually the wolves on this map spawn in the corners. So you see there is one over here. Is this? No, that's not a wolf. There might be some others lurking nearby. But you see in this corner, you do have 1, 2 wolves. So when the deer spawns in the corner, that's actually really good because you will take the wolves. Actually, it's 3 wolves. Look at that. There is one guy hiding over there. And LucifroN knows this. He's diving in. See what he's getting bounty-wise. He needs to aggro the wolves first because the wolves are actually a lot more valuable. And once they're aggroed, he can just pull them away. Looks like they're going to dance a little around here with RecoN. Second scout is now coming in. This is critical because once you have 2 scouts, you can just one-shot the deer and possibly even push away the scout of RecoN. RecoN trying to focus down the deer. LucifroN once again with the micro. There's the second scout coming in. This is where RecoN should just aggro the wolves and try to get out of here. Once you have 2 scouts, you also determine who kills the wolf, no matter what. So from this point on, RecoN can't really do much here. He just needs to bail out of this one. And this means that LucifroN will get pretty much all the deer patch. Plus, of course, 3 wolves as well. So this is a juicy, like, 140 bounty or so only over here. There is still a patch here that's like 70. And then there's a patch over here as well, which is, again, 70. So really good bounty coming up here for LucifroN. Kremlin on the way. It's going to be on the stone. It's also going to be around this area. Now, this is an interesting spot because if you wall here, you have a gold mine that's secure. Kremlin will also kind of lock entry to your base. You have a lot of space to work with. There's a second gold mine as well. But I think, given this Kremlin location, I do anticipate LucifroN to chop trees here. And it's very possible we're going to see a second TC because with the Kremlin being close to the stone mine, you also have that protected. On the other side, you have a decent haul of sheep for LucifroN. Or RecoN, actually, beg your pardon. RecoN, he's got 1 scout over here. If he's lucky... Oh, never mind. LucifroN is here already. He's going to get this patch as well. And I think he will have this patch too. This is a really good level of bounty. His hunting cabin is generating about 25 gold per minute. So if you do the math, that's about 75. He's getting wheelbarrow, which is 150. And he's getting feudal age, which is like 200. So that's 350. Villagers, uh-oh. This is problematic for LucifroN. Or is it? I think that was a sheep underneath, right? He may have run out of food. Anyway, based on what he has spent on wheelbarrow and feudal age, knowing the starting gold, and of course, knowing the cost of these upgrades, you can get an estimate of how much bounty he has. Now, I could switch back to the original thingy, the original non-caster view, I guess. But if I do that, the length of the recorded game will show up and it's going to spoil it. So I would rather not experiment with that, just to make sure we don't spoil anything. But you still get a good grasp of the bounty level. He's got 3 patches of deer, which is like 210, plus at least 3 wolves, so at least around 280 is the bounty that he works around with. He's going to be on stone. It's only 4 villagers mining stone right now. Barbican coming in for RecoN to the north. Love this little kind of pocket here. It's going to protect the sacred site, but that's not really a thing right now. Protecting the hunt, protecting the berries, and also kind of just making sure you don't get surprised from behind with knights is also a key factor here. So, love this little wall. Could see him maybe... I don't know if you want to wall here. I don't think it's necessary. It would be more useful to wall here, but this is a long wall, so I don't think he's going to do that. This map is actually very reminiscent to a set that I've cast, I think, on AGC TV. That involved B, and we had something very similar, like the deer just kind of right next to a forest like that. And what B did was kind of create a little pocket here. That was against Malians, though, to prevent the Malian scouts from just stealing the carcasses. But frankly, that could actually be an idea if he's afraid of knights. This is also an older Chinese build that we are seeing here from RecoN. He went for the Barbican first, only after goes for the Imperial Academy. Oftentimes you see players kind of using that new school Chinese build, where you just send one villager on the Barbican, and by the time you get to Feudal Age, you pretty much have both the Barbican and the Imperial Academy finished. It's not really something that makes a big difference, just a kind of a side note to add. Second TC on the way for LucifroN. He's also grabbed Survival Techniques. That food income is going to skyrocket with the hunt over here. Could see him also walling this off and just working towards the hunt over here as well. This would also be a very nice hunting cabin spot. There's also going to be on just one TC, or well, one extra TC, I guess. No second additional TC added. On the other side, we don't have any stone being mined. Now, like a minute ago, you could see the scout of LucifroN being around. In fact, he's still in here on the right side. So LucifroN knows fully well that his opponent is playing 1 TC right now. Sure enough, you have 1 TC Song Dynasty. Uh-oh. Scout from RecoN will go down to the TC fire. Now he knows there is a second TC for sure, but price to pay is high. He's going to lose the only scout he still had, by the way. He's completely deprived of vision. That's scary. It's a very scary position for RecoN right now. His opponent, LucifroN, has 3 scouts. LucifroN can place 1 over here, check out the stone. Can place 1 around this area, maybe the Stealth Forest here, to see if any enemies are coming through. And maybe place 1 here on the flank. That kind of means that LucifroN can see pretty much everything that RecoN is going to do. Whereas for RecoN, he's got no idea of what LucifroN is up to. He, I think, saw the stable. He saw the second TC, so he knows what's up. But in 3 minutes' time, he's going to have no clue whether LucifroN actually sent villagers back to stone, goes for a third TC, or whether LucifroN just goes for a fast castle. It's a guessing game right now for RecoN. Looks like RecoN is going to move towards the stone. LucifroN does have a scout over here. LucifroN knows fully well what's up. And because RecoN doesn't have his own scout, he doesn't see this guy. RecoN has no idea about the scout being here. He might think that LucifroN knows that he's going to play into the 2 TCs, but at this point, this is not something that's granted. So, for the time being, there is a chance that RecoN doesn't know that LucifroN sees the stone miners. Nice and chill, Feudal Age here. Nothing crazy. Given that we're actually casting a recorded game, I'm inclined to press the fast forward button. But then again, I mean, we can wait it out. Oh, chop through. Remember, RecoN doesn't have vision. He has no idea about this coming. Unless he specifically looks over here, it's actually very hard to spot. Spearman not really moving to the north. If this chop through happens, there is 1 knight standing by. There are some archers arriving as well. Now, there's a second TC coming up, and there is, of course, this TC to help. Looks like RecoN is going to spot this chop through attempt. And with that, there's going to be no chance for those knights to come in. Nice little reaction for RecoN. This is not an easy thing to spot, but he did that, so knights won't have time to come in. Now, what LucifroN is doing right now is actually very similar to what RecoN has done in the previous game. He is playing around the fact that his opponent is confined in his base, so you have all that map control, might as well use it. What happened here? LucifroN? Okay, there it goes. So right now, he can play into the boar. He could technically even take this boar, no one would stop him from doing that, but you see, he's going for all these pocket ecos, completely undefended because he knows that his opponent is inside that base. Looks like this little opening might open a window to harass these lumberjacks. RecoN will likely just fall back to these, so it's not like this is going to be a terrifying amount of damage, but at least one thing that RecoN will learn is that now there is a push coming with archers and knights. He's going to play into the 2 canoes. He's got triple ranges working right now, or, well, technically triple ranges. In reality, 2 of them are idle because he's deprived of food. He still has some hunt to work with, but it's only 200 food per minute. His opponent, LucifroN, he's at 1300. There's a massive discrepancy in the economies, despite only being a 3 villager difference right now. It's actually pretty scary for RecoN. It's back on track. He probably had a bunch of villagers idled. Probably ran out of sheep or something. But still, that slows down his Chukonu production quite a bit. You see, he's still just producing on one range. The other two are idle. He's just not grabbing blacksmith upgrades. No blacksmith upgrades for LucifroN either. He's going to break through the walls. And it's right now 24 army against 8. 6 times the army value. 8 knights, 14 archers. Now, mass Chukonu can beat knights, but it really comes down to Chukonu masses, not kind of a trickle of Chukonu right now. Also, the ranges aren't being supervised. We do have some spears coming in. That's going to slow down this advance. And of course, there is the wall. And more importantly, there are the TCs. That's probably the big thing here. LucifroN cannot break through this angle right now because the TCs prevent him from doing so. There's the Barbican as well, which provides line of sight and also some level of protection. So the best bet for LucifroN to break him would be somewhere around over here. Instead, he's going to try this angle. RecoN will have the Barbican, of course, helping out. Blacksmith upgrades just now finished. There is another range coming in. RecoN is slowly building up his Chukonu numbers. Now, for LucifroN, he does not have a blacksmith. So battering rams aren't really a thing right now. And that's going to kind of limit what he can accomplish with this army right now. Instead, I think he could be flirting with Castle Age right now. Looks like a knight got in. Is there an opening here? This is actually hard to tell, but from somewhere a knight actually came in here. Spearman got rid of it, so no major damage done to RecoN. But yeah, LucifroN, bit of an unbalanced eco right now, floating 2k food. He doesn't really have the goal just yet for Castle Age, but he's now going up with the high trade house. Where is it gonna get placed at? Hello, LucifroN? What's the plan? What is he going for here? I'm confused. There's the high trade house. Okay. Yeah, he's going for... Okay, okay, never mind. Mental reset. This is what the caster needs here. Villagers are going for the boar. He's sending out 8. And there's the high trade house. Probably not the best high trade house we've ever seen. But it's also going to provide that extra food, of course, from the deer. And that's probably the important element here. Archers, Chukonu now breaking out. New scout has been made by RecoN, so he's got insight into the stealth forest. He knows exactly what's coming. Castle Age just finished for LucifroN. He needs those critical Castle Age upgrades. Especially Boyar's Fortitude would be helpful. It's an upgrade that takes a lot of time to finish. Veteran Knight is going to be in a second. We're also going to have Veteran Archers. And now, I feel like if you're RecoN, you're kind of caught in between. You cannot go to Castle Age, but you also cannot push this right now. So, I guess... best thing that RecoN can do right now is go mass Chukonu, as so many Chinese players have done in the past. There is still a pretty significant discrepancy in the food ecos, courtesy of the 2 boars. Actually, LucifroN. Remember that I said he's coming out with 8 villagers? I saw at least 1 corpse. I think he lost 2 vills here. Yeah, that has to be it. You see, when you lose villagers to nature, you actually... or it shows up for the opponent's kills. So, RecoN, who never got into the enemy base with an army, is listed with 2 worker kills. That is actually due to this boar. So, LucifroN apparently lost 2 boars in there. Not the best case scenario, but he can probably get away with that. RecoN now up to 47 army. His army is actually larger than what his opponent has right now. Army value still favoring LucifroN. There are quite a lot of knights with the plus HP as well. Blacksmith upgrades aren't too shiny right now for LucifroN. He just has the 1 range defense and that's all. Looks like RecoN will try to make it to Castle Age himself, realizing that his opponent isn't going to push him. Likely going to be, I would say, the Clock Tower. Although you could justify the Imperial Academy for Vision. I think, given that you could be pushed with a lot of archers, you probably go for the Clock Tower. And indeed he does. It's gotta be a nice safe spot. 21 villagers building it. He wants to get this Castle Age and the Castle Age decks in before these knights commit. I don't know if LucifroN can commit when he sees the Castle Age from his opponent though. Normally, when you see your opponent age up, you probably want to commit because you want to use your tech advantage while you can. He cannot really commit against 2 TCs plus that many Chukonus. A lot of narrow choke points for the Spearman to stop the knights in. So indeed, LucifroN, he will not dive this. Also means that Chukonu upgrades will come in as well for RecoN. Villager count now dead even. Eco is also equalizing, slow and steady. We have some farms coming in with granaries as well for RecoN, so he's slowly working towards a farm transition. Don't forget that on the other side, LucifroN, he's yet to start adding farms. He's going to start running out of this deer patch. This boar slowly being taken as well. The other boar has been depleted. So there will be a moment where LucifroN has to invest a lot in farming, even though he does have the high trade house. He's going to have the relics, of course, for the passive gold income. Actually, Scout gets yoinked here by the Knight. That's painful for RecoN. Once again, no vision across the map. He's going to play into Springolds. There are Mangonels coming from LucifroN, and probably the best way to deal with Mass Chukanu is having quite a lot of Mangonels at hand. So having some Springolds won't hurt here for RecoN. Knight's still dancing back and forth. We do have a stable here for RecoN. Might just be for a Scout, actually. He really needs vision here. He cannot run into the Stealth Forest without having any vision. Especially on a map like Highview, where you could get caught off guard so frequently with all these Stealth Forests. You do want to have that vision with the Scout. So I'm actually wondering if this is going to be for a Scout initially. Looks like RecoN is getting ready to move out. He's not on stone, so getting a keep up somewhere in this defensive area is not really a thing for him. His opponent, LucifroN, isn't on stone either, so there aren't going to be any keeps, at least in the near future. Looks like RecoN is slowly making that farm transition happen. He is yet to capture the Sacred Site. Behind this, LucifroN has been picking up relics. In fact, he's got quite a lot. He's up to 4. He's yet to capture the Sacred Sites. I actually like this idea, because the moment you start capping the Sacred Sites, RecoN will know that you have monks out there. He probably still anticipates you having some, but it's better not to straight up tell your opponent, hey, I do have monks. Of course, the other thing is that relics safe inside your base, it's probably better value than capping the Sacred Sites initially. But as long as you don't have those Sacred Sites, you're not 100% certain about how many monks your opponent has, how many relics he picked up, all that stuff. Here comes the spear, here come the Chukanus. You see, Scout has been added by RecoN, so he's got that vision. Oh! This poor warrior monk just got massacred by the Clock Tower Springolds. Love these little trenches being dug by RecoN, by the way. He's playing this one very safe. And it looks like he's now heavily on stone. I think he probably wants to secure the Sacred Site. He's going to need some Sacred Sites to offset the relic gold income that's coming in for RecoN, or for LucifroN, because LucifroN picked up all 5 relics. Fight unfolding in the middle. Scout kind of getting caught in the middle of this one. Spearmen do brace against the Knights. Nest of Bees opening up against this one. Springolds trying to focus down the Mangonels from the back line. Knights now charge in. Crossbows from the back line helping out as well, but you do have some men-at-arms joining the fun as well. Mangonel still intact. First Springold trying to focus it down. Second Springold is gone. And now the Mangonels still live. RecoN forced back inside his base. He's got some Chukanus. He's got some crossbows working here, but the Nest of Bees are destroyed. And this push is looking relentless right now from LucifroN. He's still got a lot of Knights, a lot of men-at-arms as well. He pulled the Militias too. It's 19 of them on the field. They are close to expiring, but he wants to get the best use for them. Nest of Bees now in this choke point, trying to make a hold happen. One volley comes out, a lot of archers damaged, but you gotta be cautious with the Mangonels now catching up to the Chukanus. Another volley comes out, and LucifroN is pushing deep inside the base of RecoN here. Springold popping out, but it's not focusing the second Mangonel. It's actually fighting some men-at-arms here, interestingly. Emergency Castle now in the middle of the eco for RecoN. He's getting pushed all the way back. A couple of villagers will get caught in here as well. Mangonel now being focused down by the Springold. Archers focusing down the villagers. RecoN is starting to bleed a lot of eco. You see the villager KD heavily swinging in the favor of LucifroN. He's no longer fighting the villagers. He's going to try and finish off all these crossbows, all the Chukanus. And RecoN's army just evaporating from the battlefield. It's only 16 army against 50. There's the second wave coming in as well. LucifroN has got the stone for a forward keep. He could finish this game right here, right now. He's got that momentum, and RecoN is on the back foot. Looks like the first wave will get cleaned up. But here comes the second wave. Another 14 militias have been popped. These gremlins are just so oppressive, so atrocious. LucifroN hasn't been using them throughout the entire game. He just waited with all the tickets, popped them all at once. He's going to dive into the farming eco. But more importantly, he's kind of rallying his forces over here because he's ready for a castle. I think he's about to pull villagers for that. He's also caught in the middle of a farm transition, you see. So that's something that is shrinking his momentum a little. And it's actually allowing a bit of a recovery opportunity for RecoN. RecoN lost something like 13 villagers to this push. He had, I think, one villager killed before, so that's why I'm thinking about 13. Not a terrifying amount of losses. You still have a decent villager count, but you need to keep this alive. Springgold v Springgold over here. Knight might actually yoink the Springgold here. Mangonel still coming in useful. Nest of Beasts firing from the back line. Crossbows slowly cleaning up the man-at-arms, but the archers are diving deep. Militias have expired. As a response to the archers, we do have some palace guards appearing here for RecoN, but he's got a lot of idle time on his eco. Has been running for his life, and you see, a moment ago it was 14 villagers killed by LucifroN, make it 21 now. He has done a lot of damage to his opponent's eco, and to me it's actually surprising that he doesn't want to finish this game with this keep. He's just going to secure the sacred site. With the momentum he had, you feel like he could have done that keep over here maybe. Anyways, Nest of Beasts slowly pushing back the archers. They will be trapped in here, so this will be a cleanup by RecoN. And one thing to consider is that the army value is now pretty close. RecoN managed to stabilize here. He's got some crossbows, he's got some Springgolds. Palace guards are also now coming in. Looks like he will live to see another day. Still, long-term, LucifroN's position is substantially better. He's sitting on 2 sacred sites, 5 relics. So right now, his gold income, that's 700-ish per minute, it's coming exclusively from passive gold income. He's got the relics, he's got the sacred sites, he's got a high trade house here as well. And there's a Spasskaya tower coming in here too. I love this. This is an aggressive Spasskaya tower, but you see he's playing a gold denial game, knowing that RecoN only has this gold mine and this gold mine he can work with. The other major gold vein is... where's that actually? It's right here. This castle and this position in general is securing this large gold mine for LucifroN, and the Spasskaya tower will deny this gold from RecoN. Add it up with the fact that LucifroN has essentially all the passive gold income that he can have, and you see that the game plan here is pretty clear. He wants to starve RecoN out of gold. Now, RecoN is thinking about Imperial Age. He's got an okay-ish army, but this army is insufficient to push either this castle or this Spasskaya tower. Also, Spasskaya tower is hard to get rid of. It's 10,000 HP now. The lovely thing for LucifroN to do would be to yoink this gold. He's got the Spasskaya tower here. Villagers are protected. Get the stone first, and then take the gold. Even if RecoN retakes this position later on, if the gold is gone, it's not going to be any useful for him. And by the way, dropping the Spasskaya tower also opens up the opportunity to make stone walls here for LucifroN. So he's going to wall this northern flank up. And with that, options will be very limited actually for his opponent. Stone walls are up as well for RecoN, so these horsemen cannot just break in. Imperial Age will be on the way for RecoN most likely. Now, it's actually interesting that he's going Imp. I could have seen a world in which Fire Lancers work. Just going Yuan Dynasty and Fire Lancers. Especially because LucifroN, at least up until this point, he didn't have a highly mobile army. Now he's going Horsemen. But before that, it was basically Archers, Siege, some Knights. Fire Lancers could have been very good to just dive in, do a lot of eco damage, disengage, and just slowly creep your way back into this game. Now, with the Horsemen out there, Fire Lancers wouldn't work. What is RecoN up to? He's banking a lot of resources. Okay, he wants the Great Wall Gatehouse. This is what he wants. Alright. Stone walls being built over here. Great Wall Gatehouse as well. This is gonna be a scary position for him, though. Here come the Horsemen. This landmark is just 50% complete. Mangonel from the shadows unleashing volleys. Villagers getting caught off guard over here. Springolds will be focused down by the Horsemen, so nothing that deals with that Mangonel now. Looks like the Great Wall Gatehouse might finish though. Horsemen not focusing down the remaining villagers. And RecoN kind of dodges a bullet over here. This could have been a lot scarier. If it wasn't for the Chinese landmark building bonus or building bonus, this probably would have been a lot scarier of a scenario for him. A couple of Horsemen also broke into the eco though. He was busy taking that fight. I'm not sure where they broke in actually. They probably have done so. Yeah, right here. Right here. Through the palisades, they broke in. Stonewall's now coming in here for RecoN, trying to stabilize. Spearman will be dispatched to deal with this. But in the middle, I think we will have to start prepping for a long, long siege war. Don't forget, this gold mine is essentially the only gold mine that's still available for RecoN. So he really needs this, and LucifroN knows that fully well. This gold slowly being taken. Actually, LucifroN pulled the villagers from here, so if RecoN comes in here in time, he could secure that gold, at least probably like 80% of it. He's taking the stone as well. I would not be shocked to see a keep somewhere around over here. He might actually try to push this side, just go for the gold. LucifroN isn't taking any chances. He's just going to drop all the walls across the map. He wants to funnel all the engagements here in the middle. This is the only opening that he has on his stone walls. He's got a beautiful market spot, by the way, as well. In fact, at this point, he's 200 pop. I wouldn't be very disappointed to see him trade. Well, at least queue up some traders, start setting up the trade. Because, frankly, that's going to give him even more longevity. It's going to secure the game beyond, let's say, the 50-60 minute mark if it goes very long. And it's not like he can do anything other than that right now, right? Alternative is to bank up resources and just start sending wave after wave of units into this defensive position, kind of. Looks like... What are you guys up to? They might be going for the gold. Anyways, trenches being dug over here by RecoN. Horsemen kind of swinging around. They do want to get rid of those nest of bees. Of course, there's a trebuchet as well firing from here. 2 trebuchets on the other side. These nest of bees emplacements on the Great Wall Gatehouse actually make it difficult for these horsemen to dive in. Oh no, RecoN. RecoN, this is still a weakness. This is his only source of gold, and it is not defended with anything. He's rushing up a stone wall gate right now, but this is a great recognition by LucifroN, realizing that there are so many exposed villagers over here, and even if you don't kill any, you will cause a lot of idle time. There's one battering ram knocking on that tower. This kind of stone wall entrenchment style actually reminds me a lot to very early Beastie games. I do remember back when I started casting Beastie, like at the time he was a very small name, and he only started becoming very good in tournaments after those first couple of games, I guess. Like, for those of you that don't know, there are some players that have been there since the beginning, like the Marine Lords and such. Beastie started a little later than others, or at least started becoming successful in tournaments a little later. And one of the earliest games I cast was, I remember it was like, hey, this guy, who is this? It was a Beastie versus Viper game at the time on Hill and Dale, and Beastie did something very similar. Multiple layers of stone walls and just creeping forward with that. It kind of became his trademark for quite a while. And this kind of approach that RecoN is taking right now reminds me a lot to that. University, now Elite Army Tactics coming in. That's going to buff a lot of this army. You see, RecoN's army is exclusively infantry. Now, if you're LucifroN, you're more than happy with this. You have a lot more longevity than your opponent does. You see, you're denying this gold mine. In fact, RecoN is getting very low on available gold. You're taking this gold as well. You have the sacred sites, you have the relics, you have what will be a safe trade eventually. So there is really no sense of urgency here for LucifroN to push this. He's more than happy just kind of trading trebuchets, minor skirmishes, all those things. He's just more than happy keeping the status quo. By the way, LucifroN is extremely deprived of wood. It's actually surprising to me. He's banking up a lot of food, a lot of gold. This might be Yeah, probably what's happening here is that he wants to just bank up a bunch of gold and food. You see, he's got a lot of ranges. So one of the things that will likely happen is that he will launch an attack, kind of throw away this army, or just trade it with the opponent, and replace it with Streltsy. Maybe some knights as well. But, oop, bit of fight here. Archer's also helping out. This is a good fight for LucifroN. He's got some veteran archers, leftovers from Castle Age combat, helping out these cavalry units. But you see, the idea here is that he's got some lower tier units. Archers, some spears, some horsemen even. You want to replace them with premium units. Knights, Streltsy, of course, with the Rus. And part of the reason why he's banking up resources is that when he loses this army, he can instantly replace it with this production that he has here. In fact, I would not be shocked to see him queue up a bunch of Streltsy soon. He probably wants to throw away this army as well. Or, well, not directly throw it away, but just trade it off to something. But frankly, there is nothing there for RecoN to trade with. So he's just more than happy picking off villager after villager on those farms. RecoN is banking up a ton of resources, by the way. He's got a lot of food. I just don't know what he's going to do with it. Both players are banking up a lot, but RecoN is kind of confined into his base. And RecoN is completely out of gold. If you're LucifroN and you feel like you don't want to push this, you can think about the Wonder. I don't think he's going to do that. I think there is just no need for it. But if you think about the fact that he still has enough stone available to just get what he needs, gold and food pretty much available, there's a lot of wood to be chopped, plus he's got the lumberjacking bonus. If he wanted to go for a Wonder, he could. I don't think he will, but he could. On the other side, I'm not so certain about RecoN's plans right now. Whatever he does has to be based around horsemen, spearmen, maybe some Chukunus, but low gold units in general. By the way, he hasn't captured the sacred site yet, which is actually quite annoying for him. This could have been, in 10 minutes, about 1,000 gold. Or no longer 1,000 gold. They've nerfed sacred sites, but still. This is a lot of gold that he's missing out on. You see he's just now capping it. But compared to the passive gold that LucifroN has gotten from the 2 sacred sites, this is a huge amount of gold to miss out on, especially for a player that's completely deprived of gold right now. 11,000 food. What is he up to? There is biology coming in, so there's gonna be some horsemen, but you see he's starting to run low on wood as well. So he needs to facilitate the breakout here soon. He's been shelling this keep with a lot of trebuchets, and one of the things I appreciate in this strategy is that the stone walls prevent the trebuchets from being taken down by springolds. Springolds cannot shoot over stone walls, trebuchets can. That's part of the reason why he's using trebuchets here and not bombards. And this kind of creep allowed him to take down this tower without having to worry about losing the trebs. So probably the plan is that he's banking up resources, but he really is counting on securing this gold. This is why it's so important that LucifroN is taking away this gold. It's also important that he's taking away this gold, by the way. These archers, they're just so oppressive. Maybe RecoN never really noticed them. He's constantly under attack, so the attack notifications are going off basically non-stop. So maybe he didn't even notice the notification here that these archers are still around. Alright, the sacred site will be captured. By the way, there's an IO buffing this university. So you see, RecoN is focusing a lot of his attention to the middle, because there's just no legitimate reason to buff this university now. It's like, it's no longer researching texts. LucifroN has a ton of gold, a ton of food banked up, a lot of stone as well. But he's low on wood. At least right now he is. Trebuchets continue to shell the walls. Looks like RecoN is finally breaking out. There is no gate over here. And I think he tried to get a gate up here, but the Mangonel denied it. Streltsy will stand ground though. And you see with both players having stone walls here, the Streltsy could actually be positioned on top. In fact, having the Streltsy stand here would be such a power position. Nest of Bees might be able to reach them actually, but this wall segment is very useful for the Streltsy. One day these archers will be cleaned up. Today is not the day. I love how LucifroN is just kind of taking all the resources from the map while he can. He has map control and he's using it. He has taken most of the stone, he's taken the gold. I mean, at this point, especially with the Roost Lumberjacking bonus, he could bank up the wood he needs for Wonder. Again, I don't think that's gonna happen. I consider it highly unlikely. This is more like trench warfare. Both players know that this could be a long game of attrition, so both of them want to kind of just wall up and bank up the resources so that if this game goes very long, they have a stockpiles to work with. The big difference between the two, of course, is that LucifroN is banking up a lot of gold. RecoN has basically no gold to work with. And I think that's going to remain the case because at this point, this gold mine is going to be gone. This gold mine is pretty much gone. There is this one, but that's pretty much all. Well, there is still 1200 gold in here for RecoN. He's got one sacred site, that's all. So if he wants to play into this one, he needs to play with a lot of trash units. But even then, it's going to be challenging. Partially because LucifroN has a perfect trade route available. So assume that, you know, all mineable gold runs out. Assume that the passive gold income is insufficient for LucifroN to maintain like mass production of Streltsy, which is likely not going to happen. But even if it happens, he's got safe trade. RecoN doesn't. So as long as RecoN doesn't secure this corner and has walls spanning across the map here, his position is extremely disappointing. You also see that more and more Streltsy are being queued up. So not only is LucifroN... Actually, LucifroN is going for a Wonder, folks. Now he is. You see he's got 6,000 stone. He queued up a lot of units, but now there is no reason for him to continue banking up all these resources. It's a status quo. He doesn't want to push into these defenses. And if he doesn't push, then the best thing that he can do is go for a Wonder. And he will have the resources for it in a second. Let's see if he's going to pull that off. You see Cathedral of the Tsar, and there it is. This is very expedited compared to the Wonder timings that we commonly see. So many times players say, oh yeah, I don't want to risk going for a Wonder. Because the risk you run is that you just spent a ton of resources on something. If now RecoN starts sending waves after waves of units against you, you will just die because you don't have a big resource bank. So one of the things that you do before you do this is actually kind of queue up some units from your bank. So despite the fact that LucifroN has 800 gold, there's a lot of gold being floated in the queues. So the moment he starts losing army, he's going to replace that with units, premium units that spawn as well. Cathedral of the Tsar will finish in a second, so RecoN is going to know that he needs to go. And this is the big difference between the two players. To a certain extent, RecoN could have considered doing something similar too. Problem is that he didn't have the gold nor the stone for it. But in this position, this all comes down to one player having the map control to secure all those resources and then just use that to make the Wonder. Both players were playing extremely passive and defensive, but one of them had the liberty of taking all those resources, and now he's using them. It actually would be lovely to have the Spasskaya Tower back at home now, but that's not going to be a thing. 15 minutes left to go. RecoN is going to need to break out of this one. So, what does RecoN do to win this game? This is a very interesting question, because I feel like his options are severely limited. One of the things that he could work around is this wall segment, or even this one. I think this pocket you have to ignore by now. Gold is gone. You have to pretty much accept your fate that you're out of gold. So one of the things that could be interesting to see is breaking through these walls, exposing the eco. Now, this is tricky, because hitting the eco by itself might not win you the game. If your opponent has a huge resource bank, he will just replace lost villagers with army, and then defend the Wonder. But in this position, with LucifroN having limited wood and only like 20 horsemen queued up, if RecoN breaks through these walls with a bunch of horsemen, wipes out... Oh. Hello? That's just a distraction. Okay. Nothing crazy. Ram push coming into the Spasskaya Tower. Oh, this could have happened so long ago. Just when the gold mine is gone, this push is going to happen. Remember, landmark victory can be a thing. So one of the things that could be a win condition for RecoN is a landmark victory. Spasskaya Tower could be taken down, but the other landmarks are pretty much inside the base of the enemy. Yeah, you see, LucifroN realizes what's going on. He's going to stonewall the Kremlin. But as I said, in the position that RecoN is right now, If he knew that his opponent has limited wood, which no longer is the case, you see LucifroN caught up, but a couple of moments ago, if he started hitting the Lumberjacks and the Eco, he could have limited LucifroN's chances of replenishing army. I'm not sure if that would have been enough, because there is still a lot of passive resource income, a lot of space back here that's safe, but that could have been an idea. Now the landmarks are gone, there is going to be one relic that he actually secures this way. Oh, there is a gold mine here. That's big. I completely missed out on this one, and RecoN needs this ASAP. This is so much value, and you see, I love this kamikaze mining from LucifroN. He just wants to take as much of it as he can. It's not a matter of him getting that gold, it's a matter of RecoN not getting it. See, mining camp will be destroyed, so you will see these villagers starting to run through the map. Fun fact, shortest path is here. So, actually no, there is a path here. They will run through there. But you see, some rams will be pulled. This is a good idea. You want to hit these exposed long walls, preferably multiple openings. If this was, you know, an Outback Octagon style FFA game, your best bet might be sniping the enemy king, but that's not a thing right now because we don't have kings. So you want to try maybe going for the landmarks, but that's going to be a challenge. Kremlin is walled in. Thing is that if you can get to the Kremlin, you can get to the Wonder. That is basically how things are shaping out right now. Villagers will be cleaned up over here, but I love this. Look at that. Once again, LucifroN pulls a couple of villagers to the side to distract the spearmen. Just get a little bit more time. RecoN wants to set up trade. He needs that gold. He's breaking through the walls. Problem is that there's a Wonder he's up against. I feel like the things that he is doing are good things, but they are just a little late. And every moment he delays, this resource queue, the gray number, is just growing greater for LucifroN. Every moment he delays, it's going to get increasingly difficult to break through this one. Yeah, now he's going for the gold, but you see there's 1,500 left. Barely any. There's still some gold here, but now it's about the time. He is going to have gold. He's got 32,000 food. In fact, if you take a look at the market prices, 32,000 food, he could just sell a bunch and still have whatever gold he needs. Concern is that he needs to break through this one, and it has to start now. At least one wave of units that LucifroN loses will be replaced instantly, but LucifroN's got a pretty remarkable resource bank. There is still a concern here for Lucy, that's the gold. If RecoN sends wave after wave of horsemen, maybe supported by Mangonels, starts focusing down these Streltsy, it might be challenging to replace them with just that gold bank. But I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. I feel like RecoN is just advancing too slow here. He's doing some good things, setting up the market, securing this gold. These are good things, but these needed to happen 10 minutes ago. If this happened 10 minutes ago, he would have found himself 6,000 gold here, 4,000 here, plus the markets. And no Wonder on the other side. Part of the reason why LucifroN was able to afford this Wonder is because he had all this gold that he could take. So I feel like RecoN's efforts to secure the south are a little belated. And now he's facing a different problem. Now he's on a timer. By the time this trade becomes a reality... Wait a second. I sincerely hope that he sees the Wonder countdown. We had instances before. We had instances in pro games where a pro player didn't realize that there was a countdown going on. I think once there was an instance of a Wonder. I think it might have been Viper, or it might have been a game that involved Viper. It might have been Viper's opponent not realizing it. But there are occurrences where players somehow don't realize what's going on. And in that case, you know, it would be a very disappointing game for RecoN. Anyway, he's moving up here, once again digging trenches. He's using this Onion Warfare to make sure that his Spring or his Trebuchets won't get sniped down by the Springles. You see, LucifroN is trying to find an angle, but that's going to be difficult to accomplish. Love the use of the walls from RecoN. He will take the opponent's walls. Once enemies are standing on it, LucifroN cannot even delete these walls. But this is a lovely counterattack by LucifroN. Overchopped by RecoN, and at this point, if you're LucifroN, you just want to distract RecoN. Looks like RecoN is a little slow to react as well. A lot of villagers are getting massacred. In fact, I'm shocked that LucifroN is pulling these forces back. Bit of a choke point fight over here. Streltsy just standing ground, Spearman kind of fighting on the top of the walls. A lot of rams coming in. This is why the horsemen are being pulled back. Hand cannoneers now making an appearance for RecoN as well. That's a lot of battering rams, but they're not really doing much. Hand cannoneers could really position themselves on the walls. We have some Nest of Bees coming in as well. Horsemen jumping on those Nest of Bees. Still, there is one more remaining, firing a volley into that crowd of units. But RecoN is just getting repelled over here. Horsemen will be cleaned up, but the army numbers are so deceiving. So much of this army from RecoN is just trash. Spearmen that will get massacred by the Streltsy. A lot of battering rams. Now, granted, this is a lot of battering rams. He's got 70 rams with 13 more in queue. This is just going to be a kamikaze push. He got rid of the first castle. There's a second one out there. 8 minutes left on the clock. Nest of Bees working wonders, and I may have underestimated RecoN's ability to push this one. He doesn't really have a huge conventional army, and the quality of his army is substantially lower than what LucifroN has, but he's got these extremely hard to destroy battering rams, and he's got a lot of them. This is just going to be spearmen and horsemen thrown into combat to secure the rams, but the rams need to start going, because right now it's a trade in both directions, but LucifroN's got the resource. He's got the resources, he's got the queue to just keep going on with this one. He's got 30 more Streltsy in queue. He has replaced his low-tier units with high-quality Streltsy with 7 minutes left on the timer. Looks like Nest of Bees do secure a little ground here for RecoN. Rams got rid of some of the walls. The key thing here for LucifroN is rebuilding production back, because one of the things he needs to do is make sure that he doesn't lose all the production buildings on the front. You see, once again, it's the horsemen being just sent against the enemy Streltsy to soak up the damage, and then just the rams destroying the production buildings. This is near a kamikaze push. Nice volley from the Nest of Bees, firing from the safety of those walls. Some of the production buildings are getting taken down. RecoN, though, I don't know how long he can sustain this. His wood bank is running low. His gold is pretty much non-existent. Horsemen trying to jump on the Nest of Bees. One of them gets taken down. Rams are slowly disappearing. There are still 25 battering rams, though. Where are they? Where are the rams? Okay, here they go. They actually managed to push in here as well. A lot of production buildings are getting taken down from LucifroN, but as long as he's 200 population, he's unfazed by that. Here come the horsemen once again. Rams making a push. A lot of production buildings still to be found, and LucifroN needs to keep rebuilding them. If he does that, this strategy will not work from RecoN. There's still 6 minutes left to go. At this point, going for the landmarks is more realistic for RecoN. There is the Kremlin. There is the starting TC, and there is the high trade house. Now, you could, of course, now say, hey, if he gets to the Kremlin, he could get to the Wonder, but I feel like this is going to be a matter of seconds. Can he get there in time? And when we talk seconds, there's a big difference between reaching this Kremlin and reaching this landmark at the back. Castle still stands, though. RecoN is down to 13 battering rams. He's actually getting a good push here on the northern side, getting rid of a lot of production here. Villagers also creeping up with some towers. A lot of production will be taken down. In the middle, RecoN is pushing this. Army value is still pretty close. 66 Streltsy out there, but if there are a lot of Nest of Bees, the Streltsy could be wiped out in a second. This really comes down to how good these Nest of Bees will be. If you find some good angles, this could work for RecoN. He needs to keep adding stone walls to prevent Springolds from sniping his Nest of Bees, and just keep pushing back those Streltsy with the Nest of Bees. He is running out of juice resource-wise. There's 4 minutes, 30 seconds left on the timer. New ramp push will happen here. It's going to push the keep. Possibly even open up the walls towards the Kremlin. To the north, there was an attempt to make a push. Try to expose the high trade house at this point. Here comes the push once again. Rams will push the keep. And it's only Streltsy right now for LucifroN, plus some spearmen. Nest of Bees coming in clutch. This is getting worrisome for LucifroN. Springolds, just one of them on the field, and Nest of Bees are doing a great job pushing back all the Streltsy. You see, the value that's being destroyed here is tremendous by RecoN. Nest of Bees once again just wiping out half of the Streltsy. Spearmen now closing distance. Streltsy number is down to 37. Once again, another volley comes out here. RecoN's numbers are also shrinking, but LucifroN is down to 175 population. Now Rams making a push towards the stone walls. They are trying to get to the Kremlin. It's 3 minutes, 30 seconds left on the clock. Another wave of horsemen now coming in. Nest of Bees, though, they're being wiped out by this group of infantry and horsemen. Walls have been broken through. Horsemen being rallied to deal with this one. The moment you take any damage on these landmarks, you have to start repairing that if you're LucifroN. I actually wonder if RecoN is thinking about pushing this Hydrate house with horsemen and then trying to go ramp push against the Kremlin. Although now it looks like he's working his way towards the Wonder. I think he's realizing the time is running out. He won't get there to the landmarks in time, so he needs to push the Wonder. He is out of Rams, though. I think this might be it. I think this might be it. We talked about how everything felt so belated from RecoN. Now I just don't know what the plan is. He's heading to the north with the cavalry. What's the plan? Like one more desperation push to the middle? That's the only thing I can imagine. Pull the enemy forces to the north with the cavalry, but at this point LucifroN can ignore this. All that LucifroN needs to focus on is keeping this Hydrate house and the Kremlin alive. In fact, I think at this point you could justify even just ignoring the Hydrate house. Protect this area with everything you have. The town center, the starting TC, one of your landmarks, and the Kremlin. 2 minutes, 10 seconds left to go. A Kremlin also has 17 supplies worth of militia, so you could pop 34 of the Gremlins to fight this. Why did the timer stop? What's happening? Game? Okay, it's actually counting down every 5 seconds now. I don't know why this happens. It's actually pretty awkward, but clock is ticking really badly. I do not understand this. Like, for sure RecoN sees the Wonder, right? He needs to know it's 1:30 remaining. There's virtually no way for him to get there in time now, I feel. He's got 5 Rams. He's gonna make one last desperate push, but it has to be towards the Wonder. A Wonder that's once again defended by a bunch of Springolds, a lot of Streltsy, multiple layers of stone walls. The only thing that can work right now for RecoN is just getting these Rams past the walls, somehow. Essentially sacrificing the army to get there. But it's too late now. He's out of food. This push is, once again, towards the production, might be towards the Hydrate house, but this is just not going to work out for RecoN. He's outnumbered 2-1 on the army department, 1 minute left to go. There's no way he gets there in time. If all this push started 5 minutes prior, or if there was any kind of effort previously to secure this corner, this game could have been different for RecoN, but he was confined in his base for so long, and LucifroN exploited that to perfection. He said, okay, you give me all these resources, I will use it to make a Wonder, and you become the aggressor. RecoN tried his best, but without major access to gold, with a very failing economy, and with so many fortifications available for LucifroN, it is just unrealistic to expect RecoN to push this, well, it's not unrealistic to expect him to push this, but this was an unrealistic task for RecoN's position in the game. An awkward finale to this best of 3, I must say. A very slow and turtly game for a long time ends up being a victory for LucifroN. The same way that RecoN has exploited the map control that he has had in the previous game, in game number 2, LucifroN did the same thing to him, and ultimately RecoN fails to close this one out. Still, one thing to note is that in this league system, even taking a game away from the opponent, like RecoN has done, does have some value for the tiebreaker criteria, so that's, I guess, the silver lining for RecoN. Still, at the end of the day, this was a convincing victory by LucifroN, especially this last game. He just exploited the weaknesses of RecoN's approach, and with that, LucifroN once again secures a victory in this league format. And for RecoN, this coming weekend on Saturday, the sets that he's playing is going to be all about him making the playoffs or missing out on them.